Ran over. I'm just kidding. Just trying to keep it lighthearted. Welcome to this evening's Tuesday, August 14th meeting of the Noblesville Common Council. We welcome you all here. If you're able, please join us and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Ayer, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ayer?
Present.
Mr. Boyce? Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. O'Connor? Ms. Rowland?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Present.
Mr. Wiles?
Present.
Sorry, Ms. Wiles. Mr. Jensen?
Present.
President, you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. Moving on to the first item on tonight's agenda, which is the approval of minutes for the July 24th, 2018 Common Council meeting.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and second. All those in favor? Quick math. 7-0. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes for the July 31st special session meeting.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and second. All those in favor? 4. All those in favor? 5. With 2 abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Next item, approval of the minutes for the August 7th, 2018 special session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor? 4.
Abstention.
4 and 3 abstentions. Thank you very much. Tonight's approval of the agenda. Ms. Wiles.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we amend the agenda and move the proposed development presentation to after transfers 1, 2, and 3. Move the development presentation to the last item on the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? 7-0. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to petitions or comments by citizens who are present. I don't have any forms, but if you'd like to speak, there are forms just outside the north door there. Please fill them out and hand them to the clerk. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report to council. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. I'll be short in my comments. Been very busy. Obviously, as you know, we've been going through the budget process where 3 or 4 directors and departments present to you, council, on budgets for 2019. Things are going smoothly in that regard. We will finish that up probably in about 6-8 weeks, if not before that. One thing I did do, and I did a lot of things, I got about a dozen here, but I'll only talk about one of them, and that was we did proclaim Archie Miller Day in the city of Noblesville on, I think, a Wednesday or Thursday. And we're very proud. Megan's smiling because Grace, her daughter, is on that championship team. But Millers went down there, and for the 2nd year in a row, are state champs. So good for the Millers, and we're looking forward to the future. But it did have a Main Street Business Summit with downtown owners, very well done, last Friday. Had a Earn to Learn with Governor Holcomb, and other things that were important to my job. Tonight, though, I would like to have a presentation or recognition, if you will, to our Noblesville Police Department. Chief Joward are here and Lieutenant Kinman. Please come up, Chief. As you may know, we, a few years ago, decided to be accredited, and it's a lot of effort to do that, but very, very few police departments do have this accreditation. So I'll let the Chief talk about that. And before and after, congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I'm very happy to report to the council that the Noblesville Police Department was reaccredited in July of this year. This was after our initial accreditation 3 years ago. The first accreditation was a 3-year accreditation. CALIA, which is the national accrediting body, has now moved to 4-year accreditation. So this one is good for 4 years. We got neat comments from the commissioners who were present at our hearing, because we actually have a hearing with questions and answers in order to finalize our accreditation. They referred to Noblesville as innovative and impressive, which I thought was kind of a nice thing to hear. We heard no negative comments. As the mayor pointed out, there are not a lot of accredited police departments in Indiana. There are 468 police departments in the state. Less than 6% are nationally accredited. We also have accreditation with the state accreditation body. There are only 7 departments, which is less than 2% of the departments in the state, that have dual accreditation. And a lot of people ask, who aren't familiar with the process, what does this bring to the city? And I just wanted to talk about, very briefly, 5 points that Clea points out. Accreditation brings greater accountability within the agency. We're responsible for maintaining proficiency in 189 different standards. Each one of these standards has multiple points in it, so as Lieutenant Kinman pointed out earlier this evening, it's more like we have to hit about 500 different marks for an accreditation. It reduces our risk and liability exposure. It is a stronger defense against civil lawsuits. Police departments tend to attract lawsuits for various reasons, but accreditation gives us good defense. One of the things that we hope this demonstrates is our commitment to you and to the city. And the note here is accreditation provides objective evidence of an agency's commitment to excellence in leadership, resource management, and service delivery. Thus, government officials are more confident in the agency and our ability to operate efficiently and meet community needs. It also really stresses community policing. So part of what accreditation gives us is an increase, automatically an increase in community accountability. So Lieutenant Kinman did a great job managing us through this process again this time. The second accreditation, or the first reaccreditation, traditionally is the hardest one a department has to do because we have to prove every single standard, whereas when we first started out, we hadn't been doing some of these things since they were new. So it's a tremendous accomplishment for Kurt and for the department, and we thank the council very much and the mayor very much for all the support that we get that enables us to do this. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
You, the city, we support, as you know, the Youth Assistance Program to kind of bring you up to speed as to where they are and their growth within Noblesville is Matt Nellis. Matt is a football coach known for his volunteering in the elementary football program, but also now with Youth Assistance. Matt?
Thank you all. I appreciate your time tonight. I understand I have 45 minutes, so I'll get started and try and go as quickly as possible. I'm just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me. As you all know, Noblesville Youth Assistance is a non-for-profit organization. We're a collaboration between the public and private sector. We have 2 early intervention advocates who quite simply meet with and advocate and provide wraparound services for the kids and the families and our community. We as a group meet with, or our advocates meet with families on a completely volunteer basis, listen, learn, and act. Simply listen to what the needs are of the kids and the families, learn about their unique circumstances, knowing that every family and every situation is different, and then act upon that. And acting upon that can be a variety of things. Could be providing financial assistance, pro-social activities for the children to be involved in. It may be tutoring or mentoring programs, or simply walking them through the various services that our wonderful community has to offer and support them. In the 2017-2018 school year, we had 218 new referrals or new cases that our 2 advocates worked on just within our community. This year, they already have 91 active case files with 18 pending. We have a little bit over 100 children that are currently getting tutoring or one-on-one mentoring. Those are middle school and high school students. The need is continuing to rise, particularly in that middle school and high school age group. And then this past summer, we actually helped take over the summer lunch program, partnering with the Hamilton County Food Bank, and serve 242 kids 5 meals a week, which comes out to roughly 9,600 meals over the summertime. So our need in the community is continuing to grow, and we hope to continue to expand by raising additional funds to funnel that back into the families in the community to continue to support the kids and their families and providing a hand up rather than a handout in our community. And hopefully one day soon we won't have to exist. We will be able to eradicate the issues that our kids and our families face, and we will no longer have to be in existence. But until that time, we'll be standing firm and working alongside the community to help better the kids and the families within Noblesville. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. As a reminder, too, Youth Assistance was a benefactor of the Mayor's Charity Jubilee. Those checks will be given out shortly, but they were one of the benefactors. So anything else? Any questions of me?
Questions of the mayor? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to council committee reports. I will just, Ms. Rowland, sorry.
Apologize to her. Last week, I'm the liaison, by the way, to the Cultural Arts District, and we have our great director here this evening. If you didn't get to see the current, she is extremely famous, and the title was Cultivating Resources, and that's what I want to speak about tonight. The Cultural Arts District met for their quarterly meeting with nearly 25 artists in the room. And these were non-for-profits, the Parks was there, the county was there, economic development, the library, Main Street, on and on. Everyone was there. It was very impressive. Ms. McGill presented her 2019 program of work. That's what I like to call it, because it is a lot of work. And I pass that out to you each. And I forgot to give you guys one. Whoa, sorry. And she presented her program of work, and I had each of you have that before you this evening. There are, in fact, tonight she's here to talk about one of her major projects that she's moved forward. She has plans for 6 specific events for downtown, and that's mentioned here. She even has, I mean, this girl, this lady, this director means business. In her report that she sent out to her group that was at the meeting, she asked for a pledge. So if you are going to be part of the Arts District, you're going to pledge that you're going to work hard, and you're going to follow through, and you're going to do your committee reports, and you're get it all together in 2019. The thing that impressed me is she has been listening, I think, to the city, and she has put a lot of elements that the city is struggling with, lots of detail that we need to look at and to try to come up with a different approach, maybe ways to save some money, particularly with road closings, and how do we secure space and all of our new venue ideas and so forth. And she has put this into her program and is willing to be a clearinghouse to the non-for-profits who don't always think about that closing a street costs the city a lot of money, and what does that do for merchants and the whole balance of what we're doing, trying to do downtown. So she has taken that on, and I think she is really accepting a lot of responsibility to make the district work in a very positive way. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and she's probably going to kill me, but we had this little discussion that in order to get this done in a timely fashion, and by the way, she has all the resources. She has the people that can do the murals. She has the people that can do the entrance decorations that we're looking for, the district amenities and all the things. She has all these resources, and she's anxious to get them all done. But she's one person. We funded her very carefully last year, and I would like to suggest that please read this. We're in the budgeting process right now, and if you really want to see this get done, we either, as a council, all need to go over to her office 4 days a week and work to get this done, or it might be a better idea that we're not that talented, so that we give her some support and some help with additional personnel. So she didn't ask me to say that, but she really does. I'm very impressed, and I don't get impressed easily with what she's doing. I think she's right on target, and I know from our downtown committee, we want to see some things get done. And I think there's our person to get it to happen. So I encourage you, please read this. And she has a lot more to tell us than I do, but congratulations on your program and your poster girl and everything. I'm very excited.
Rolling. Additional, let's top that. Additional council committee reports. Rick Taylor.
I can't top that.
Get excited, Rick.
I've got two. This might be a little boring. I've got two reports. First one is tree board met August 13th, which was yesterday, and for the 28th year in a row, we are Tree City USA, which is a good thing. And there's only 10 or 20 cities that's got a full tree board committee, so we were doing pretty good. Arbor Day was April 28th. Not a very good turnout. We're thinking about asking permission from Main Street to see if we can't move that to the first Farmers Day Market Day, so we can have a lot of people and hand out trees like we're supposed to. But hopefully that'll work out. I think it'll work out better for more recognition that we are a tree city, and that's all good. Fall planting, there'll be 100 trees planted throughout the city this year. And as we move to, how do I say this, enhance Seminary Park, the tree board would like to be involved in maybe planting 2 or 3 trees down there if we need more trees. And then later on this fall, street trees is a big issue for us right now. And we're going to have a presentation to council to how we have a problem with our street trees. Bring it more to light to this council why we need to make some recommendations how we do that. I think we'll all be impressed and realize we've got to make a decision. The next report, and some of this Mary Sue already touched on, Downtown District Committee met on August 6th. We discussed the Embrace Downtown Streetscape Master Plan, which was presented to us, not completed, but presented to us. There was some discussion concerning events of closing streets, as Ms. Rowland touched on, so we will be taking advice from Ms. McGill on that as well. Also, it was talked about maybe, other than the street dance, maybe closing 8th Street rather than 9th for, obviously, to help the merchants. So we will be discussing that. There was this discussion on to how we differential how we are in the downtown district. So we are looking into maybe changing the color of our lights to black when you enter the district, so you know you entered something special as we get there, as we're working on something special. We're trying to move that forward. And then alley activation, there'll be a presentation tonight on that for Ms. McGill. Ms. Wild requested a report of expenditures and remaining balance in the Downtown Development Fund at each meeting. And Ms. Rowland added a timeline for projects should be also included, which I think we need to do. Brief discussion on where we're at with Seminary Park. And we also talked about possibly activating a Christmas theme in Seminary Park this year. So that discussion will be moving forward. And that takes care of that.
Any questions of Mr. Taylor?
Mr. President.
Ms. Wiles.
I have the Finance Committee report, since Mr. O'Connor could not be with us this evening. The City Finance Committee met on August 9th. We had 2 items for review under executive session for review of economic development projects. And then during our regular meeting, we touched on several items that Mr. Spalding will be covering this evening. So I won't go into great detail on that, since we'll have that further discussion. And by the time we got to this part of the Finance Committee agenda, we did not have a quorum, so we cannot present to you the claims with a motion.
Additional council committee reports. I have a roads committee report that I passed out the minutes for, and the minutes will be, the roads committee meeting minutes will be in our minutes from this evening's meeting, so for you to review. Additional committee reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the claims.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to previously discussed ordinances. There are 3 previously discussed ordinances under here. All are eligible this evening for a public hearing. So we'll take them one at a time and allow a presentation, then we will open the public hearing for all three at the same time. So previously discussed ordinance 24-07-18, council to consider ordinance 24-07-18, an ordinance approving additional appropriations in the promotional fund. Mr. Spalding.
Mr. President, members of the council, Jeff Spalding, City Controller, and as you kind of referenced, basically all three of these ordinances really are, can be bundled into one thing, and the first one is the primary ordinance. What we are doing with this ordinance is establishing a promotional fund for the city as prescribed in City Code 30.07. That had not been set up previously, but we had a situation where funds had been approved and structured a different way in the city budget for the same purposes. So basically what this ordinance is doing is it's establishing that promotional fund and then appropriating a like amount of money that had been budgeted elsewhere in city budgets into the promotional fund. And then the other two ordinances essentially are de-appropriating those exact same amounts of money from the park fund and the general fund where they had previously been budgeted, because it's now being aggregated into the promotional fund. And so that's it. The three work together.
Great. Any questions of Mr. Spalding? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can I read the next two in order and then go to the public hearing? Great. Previously discussed ordinance 25-07-18, council to consider ordinance 25-07-18, an ordinance approving a reduction of appropriations in the general fund, and previously discussed ordinance 26-07-18, council to consider ordinance 26-07-18, an ordinance approving a reduction of appropriations in the Parks and Recreation Fund. As stated earlier, these items are eligible for a public hearing. So at this point in time, we will open the public hearing for ordinances 24-07-18, 25-07-18, and 26-07-18. Mr. Ayer.
Mr. President, seeing no public come forward, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. At this point in time, we'll have the approval of, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 24-07-18?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hampton.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Ms. Rowland. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
7-0, the ordinance is adopted.
Much. At this point in time, we'll have a motion to approve ordinance 25-07-18.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Ms. Rowland. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mr. Hampton.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
7-0, the ordinance is adopted.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we'll have a motion to approve ordinance 26-07-18.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Rowland.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mr. Hampton.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
7-0, the ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spalding. Moving on to transfer number 1, council to consider transfer TC-02-18A, amending transfer TC-02-18 to correct a Scrivener's error. Mr. Spalding.
Mr. President, members of the council, again, Jeff Spalding, Controller. First of all, thank you all for moving these items up on the agenda. I'll make it quick, and then I'll ask your indulgence with one other thing, too, is I would actually prefer to go through them 1, 3, and then 2, because I believe that you're going to have some folks have a little bit more of a discussion on transfer number 2, if that's okay. Is that all right or not all right? Okay. Oh, they're all right next to each other. All right, first one, Scrivener's error. This one's exceedingly simple. Everything about the transfer was previously presented and approved was correct, and it again had to do with the establishment of the promotional fund, but it referenced the Parks and Recreation Fund, and the Parks and Recreation Fund number is 108, and on the previous version, I believe there was an error and it said Fund 101 Parks and Recreation. This one now just says Fund 108 Parks and Recreation, and that's all that this does. It just corrects that, makes it accurate.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Spalding on transfer number 1?
President,
Mr. Ayer.
I move that we approve transfer number 1, TC-02-18A.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much.
All right, then number
transfer number 3.
Right, transfer number 3, again, fairly straightforward item here.
Mr. Spalding.
Yeah.
Let me read the ordinance and then you talk.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Transfer number 3, council to consider transfer TA-06-18, an appropriation transfer for demolition of an unsafe structure at 19570 Forsyth Drive. Mr. Spalding.
My apologies.
That's
Yep,
okay.
fairly straightforward, and actually, you stole about everything I would have to say about it. The only additional comment that I will make is that the reason that we're doing the appropriation transfer, and this is an example of things we've talked about before, it's a transfer from contingency funds that were budgeted for the city for kind of known unknowns, things that, you know, are typical things that a city may need to do, but you're not going to budget them in a departmental budget because, you know, they're just not that foreseeable and predictable. And this is an example of that. It's a nearly $49,000 expenditure for a circumstance that's requiring city action, but that you wouldn't budget for. But that's why I established the contingency funds. And if you have specific questions about the item that is being addressed with this transfer, Sarah Reed from Planning, the Director of Planning, is here and can talk a little bit more about that. But if you're familiar with the issue, this is just basically putting the money, taking it from the contingency, putting it into the Planning Department's budget. It's budget neutral from that standpoint. It's just transferring money from one place to another and putting it in the right place to be expended from.
Mr. Ayer, question?
Mr. Howard, is there a way for us to recoup this money since it's being used for demolition of a unsafe property?
Yes, and one of the reasons it's so high is that this house has a basement in it, and so they have to backfill that basement in order to make it a solid building pad, so they can, and we have to lean against the property, and when the property is sold, we have to get our money, depending on what the taxes are and where everybody else is. But that lien, I believe, is ahead of the mortgage.
Thank you.
Additional questions? None. Do we have a motion to approve?
President,
Mr. Ayer?
I move we approve transfer TA-06-18.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. And transfer number 3, council to consider transfer TA-04-18, an appropriation transfer in the Downtown Development Fund, and transfer TA-05-18, an appropriation transfer in the General Fund, both concerning funding for downtown alley activation. Mr. Spalding.
All right. I guess I didn't oh, here it is. Gotcha. All right. So what's going on here is there was a recent action by the Downtown District Committee and a desire to dedicate a portion of the funding that is now deposited into the Downtown Development Fund to help support alley activation, and that is being paired with another transfer, or that is being paired with other money that had previously been appropriated from the general fund to provide a total of $90,000 available for alley activation. And I think the important thing to understand about this gets a little boring and technical, but because we're pulling money from two different funds, what you're doing, you're creating a pool of resources to be able to address the alley activation, but because they're two distinct, separate legal city funds, the money will be effectively in two buckets. So $80,000 will be appropriated from the Downtown Development Fund and then appropriated within that fund to the Economic Development Department, and they will execute the plan using that $80,000 that's appropriated to their department from that fund. And then the other transfer is in support of the, I didn't have my mind wrapped around this one quite as quickly. The other transfer is in support of taking money that was previously unspent by the Economic Development Department in 2017 that was appropriated in that year that they are wanting to make available for 2018, and I guess there's been some internal discussion around that. And effectively what these two transfers do together is they address all of those things technically, and they also split the money out that is being appropriated here between the 300 series, which is services and other charges, and some for capital improvements, purchases of equipment, those types of things. And like I said, together, what all of this does is creates this dedicated pool of funds for alley activation. And because of the methodology that I've used with this, there is actually no additional appropriation to the city. I am just taking funds that were previously appropriated either to non-departmental in the Downtown Development Fund or to the contingency in the general fund and moving them into the right places so they can be spent out of the proper departmental budgets to address the alley activation needs. And the Economic Development Director, Judy Johnson, is here and can talk about this a little bit more, and I guess she has some guests as well.
Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. Yes, we'll be receiving all of the invoices and managing that through the controller's office to make sure that the items are paid for that will be detailed. My task tonight was to introduce Ailey McGill, but you have done such a great job doing that. I am only going to add a couple items. In 2018, the City of Noblesville contracted with Ailey McGill, Executive Director of Nickel Plate Arts, to be our arts and culture consultant. She's doing a great job, as you heard earlier, and one initiative that she is leading is alley activation. She is also partnering with Lorna Steele of Main Street, so I wanted to point out that Lorna was here as well. So they're meeting regularly with the Economic Development Department to talk about alley activation. But that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to bring Ailey up. She's got a presentation for you.
Ms. McGill, welcome.
Hi, thank you all very much. I am here simply to help put some images to the memo on this project, so I can hand these out. Concept drawings, I want to point that out. We will move forward with actual planning and designing once we have approval for the funding. And we know that we've already had Peterson Architecture pledge to help. Yes. Like I say, we already have Peterson Architecture on board to help us with plan drawings and things of those sorts. And of course, we have lots of great artists we can work with locally. So the top page here is just the sort of ongoing concept map that we've been making for the North Alley. This whole conversation started by focusing on that North Alley. And the key piece that we need to move all this forward is to close that alley to traffic, which requires installing bollards. Bollard installation is more expensive than I expected it to be. So we, to get bollards that will match the design principles of downtown and meet all the same standards that we would like them to meet, That's a big chunk of this $80,000 is installing bollards in this alley, and then the east alley as well. As you already know, Mateo's has closed the east alley for outdoor dining and seating for most of this summer, and the consensus as we've been in the community seems to be that that is working for most people. So we are exploring the implications of closing that alley altogether and making that a space that can be used by businesses and citizens more regularly. So this $80,000 will include those structural improvements like bollards and safety mirrors at the back of the alleys, but will also include some beautification improvements, including a 200 square foot mural is part of this budget, and we are hoping to include a hydration station for the south alley so that all three alleys have sort of an equal presence and feel and quality to them. That hydration station, also known as a drinking fountain, would be artistically embellished by sculptors in a process that would be a nice collaborative design process. The furniture that's proposed in this is going to be sure to match with the design standards of downtown and make sure it's all the same items and designs that we buy for other parts of the downtown. And there's a few minor costs associated in here for making sure that all the paint matches and things like that as well. The subsequent pages are just to give you some of the ideas of some of the concepts we've been looking at to inform our work. So that includes, one of the things I'm most excited about is the possibility of a archway at the front of each of the alleys. Each archway would be a different design, but they'd all be complementary to really give a sense of place. That could include potentially naming the alleys something other than their directional names, and that's a process that we'll work on throughout this as well. The other, you can see my really high-tech drawing of the concept here of an alley archway, which they would articulate so that if we ever do have to get a large object or a truck back through there, they could be completely open or they can be shut when the alley is activated. Some of the other key elements that we would explore in this phase are other interesting installations that help define that space and also solve problems in the spaces such as lighting or shade if needed. I just want to point out too that our alley activation plan is more comprehensive than these three alleys. Let me make sure that we're facing the right direction here. Let's see. So this is a map of downtown. We have identified alleys that we think are prime for activation in different ways, and each of those alleys could be have different uses. There are some alleys we know we absolutely cannot close to traffic and we do not intend to, but they still can be pretty welcoming spaces that work well. So phase one is looking at the three around the square, and then if this is successful and we enjoy the process, then future phases would look at continuing that process. I think that covers it.
President, and this recommendation does come to the full council from the Downtown District Committee. As you may recall, any expenditures over $25,000 out of that Downtown Development Fund has to come to the full council for approval. So this recommendation does come with that full approval from that committee.
Any additional questions of Mr. Spalding, Ms. Johnson, or Ms. McGill? Mr. Hampton.
Just one on, once this is activated and everybody's fired up and it sounds like it's going to be great and people are enjoying it and eating, and who's responsible for the maintenance of it? Who's going to take care of it?
That, according, in our discussions, these fall under Parks jurisdiction, but we are still making sure that we are mapping that out and addressing those ongoing maintenance concerns, but that is my understanding at this point.
Mr. Ayer.
Mr. President, I move that we approve transfer TA-04-18.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much, everyone.
Do we need to transfer TA? Mr. President, I would make a motion that we approve the transfer TA-0518.
Second that.
Moved in second. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our last item, proposed development presentation number 1. Council to consider introductory information for the proposed Parkside at Finch Creek plan development. Good evening, Mr. Harden and Mr. Compton.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Steve Harden. I'm a partner in the law firm of Fakery Baker Daniels, and I'm pleased to be representing Pulte Homes before you this evening. I'm now going to introduce Dave Compton, who's going to give you an overview of the proposed development. Dave?
Good evening. For the record, my name is David Compton. I'm Vice President of Land Acquisition for Pulte Homes of Indiana, and on behalf of Pulte Homes and the entire Parkside at Finch Creek of Noblesville development team, we're happy to give an introductory overview to the members of the council. With me tonight, a quick introduction. You heard from Steve Harden, Caitlin Dofer, Manager of Entitlements, Chris Wilkes, Principal at Holiday Properties. Also, we have Todd Pyatt, who's President of Pyatt Homes. The purpose of tonight is to provide you an overview of the proposed Parkside of Finch Creek of Noblesville development. The centerpiece, try to get started here. There we go. Sorry about that. When we first looked at following up to our successful Del Webb community that was originally constructed in Fishers in 2005, we looked at many different areas over central Indiana. And one of the areas that we were chiefly interested in was Noblesville. And we looked first at your comprehensive plan. Before you were the 7 elements that we looked with in looking at the Noblesville Comprehensive Plan in moving this project to where it is tonight. We also looked at the Noblesville Housing Study, which most interestingly indicated that in 2030, more than 1 in 5 people in the United States will be over 65 years old. 40 to 45% will go to suburban densification, and baby boomers enjoy safe urbanism, want walkable communities with urban amenities, culture, and education. So after studying up to 5 or 6 different sites within Hamilton County, Indiana, we came down to the proposed development located at the northeast corner of 156 and Bowden Road. This single parcel totals 456 acres in size. It's conveniently located with approximately 2 miles of 2 major hospitals, and is convenient to exit 210, which has undergone a great deal of development lately, as we all know, with Hamilton Town Center, most recently the Embassy Suites, and now the Borg Warner. The centerpiece of this development, of this multi-generational development, is Del Webb. Del Webb originally, as I indicated, had started in Fishers in 2005. That community is nearing build-out, and we're excited that we'll be able to take all that we have learned over the last 13 years from that Del Webb and bring it to Finch Creek of Noblesville. This is a multi-generational community that includes not only the Del Webb, which is approximately 650 acres of its, or 650 units of its centerpiece, but also a traditional family section, as well as a specialty section of fine craft homes that will be done by Pyatt, and then a 31-acre neighborhood mixed-use community area that will have multifamily, senior housing, and neighborhood retail, all walkable within the community. We're very excited that we're across the street from Finch Creek Park. We know that this has been a long process for Noblesville, and we're excited that Phase 1 is moving forward in that. And I had several discussions with the developer of the Finch Creek Fieldhouse, how that can be a common amenity for not only our community, but expanding it for the area. As I indicated, the Del Webb, which is an age-restricted 55 and better community, will be the centerpiece of the community. Del Webb itself is made up of 3 different types of single-family detached products, 3 different series of homes. The largest of that is the Napa series, which you see on the screen some examples of the updated elevations in the Napa series. We're happy to say that we're going to try to tie into the Finch Creek Park in kind of a lodge feel for the development. Taking the open space, there's 43 acres of open space in a regional detention facility, and we'll talk about some of the other open space that meanders through the development. But this is an example of the product that's the largest series, the Napa series. There is a middle series in the Finch Creek Del Webb called the Sonoma series, and then the smaller series is called the Monterey series. In total, Del Webb will range from approximately 1,150 square feet to over 2,500 square feet in size. 3 different distinct series are intermixed throughout the development. Everyone in this community will 55 and better. So the homes are more mixed, not separated, than you would see in a traditional development. Gotta put the Monterey up there, I'm sorry. Now let's switch over to the traditional, more of the single-family area of the development. This provides a distinct move-up community for people and residents that live in northeast area of Noblesville. Some of this product is currently being built today in Blue Ridge Creek. It's being refined and updated to be offered within the Finch Creek Parkside area of the development. Next, we'd like to present the specialty product. It's been identified in your housing study as a need within the community. We, after researching around the city of Indianapolis and working with different builders, we were able to select and work with Pyatt Homes. Pyatt has a fine craft line of homes today. Those homes are being built down at Legacy in Carmel, just south of 146th Street. As you can see from the elevations, the garages are set back, front porches, and kind of a unique, kind of close-in cottage-style living. They also have a duplex product. As much as we'd like to say that everybody would love a Del Webb, and I would love to say that, but not everybody wants a Del Webb home. So they offer an empty nester product that's a little bit of your less traditional duplex. You don't necessarily see the garage doors from the street. The Del Webb community is one of the focal points is the entranceway. We do a long sweeping boulevard into the community that goes right into the clubhouse area. You can see a rendering of the sign going in. The entire community is walkable. There are over 8 miles of asphalt trails in the community and over 10 miles of sidewalks. So you can run a mini marathon at the Finch Creek development without even leaving the community itself. Talking a little bit about the Del Webb area. Again, we have tried to take everything that we've learned from 12 years of Del Webb and Fishers and bring it to Noblesville. As you come into Boulevard, there's a 4.6 acre amenity area. To the north of that is an existing tree stand of about 23 acres. So the common area in the heart of the Del Webb community is 28 acres of common space. There's a dog park in the middle of it, and then there's 3 other different parks within the Del Webb community, including not limited to community gardens and also a yoga area, outdoor yoga area. The clubhouse anchors the Del Webb community. This clubhouse is proposed to be approximately 12,500 square feet in size. There's multiple sport courts that surround it, as well as an outdoor swimming pool and outdoor grilling area around the clubhouse. It's the center and the heartbeat of the Del Webb community. Because of the size and scope of the community that's being proposed, we're able to do more than we normally do in the traditional area. In the traditional area, you can see there's not only a swimming pool, playground, basketball courts, but there will also be an indoor clubhouse in that area. Traditionally, bathhouses are all that developers do. This area, though, will also have an indoor clubhouse with entertaining and some workout areas within it. Switching over to the neighborhood retail, we've been fortunate enough to partner with Holiday Properties out of South Bend to be the pilot of the designer and implementer of the mixed-use area, which is approximately 31 acres in size. We're proposing in this area to provide for some neighborhood retail. What really makes the community special is that everything is walkable within the community. We propose some market rate single family, but also some senior housing in this area so that people may age in place at Finch Creek. You could live in a single family, move to the Del Webb, and then if necessary, one day move to the senior component, all within the proposed Finch Creek development. Holiday Properties has extensive background. You may know them from the Ameriplex development, but they've also done mixed-use developments in Portage, Indiana, and Naperville, Illinois. We're very happy to have them as part of the development team. Just a little shot of the senior component. We have not identified, but are interviewing several people right now on the senior component. We have not identified a partner in that area. And then finally, the neighborhood retail, we want to continue to carry that lodge theme. We're not looking for the next Kroger in this area. We're looking for neighborhood retail that supports the community and is walkable either by a bike or walkable or by a short car distance, hopefully not a car, by walking throughout the community. In summary, we believe that Finch Creek development of Noblesville provides a unique opportunity to not only bring Del Webb as its centerpiece, to provide a unique multi-generational community that meets not only the comprehensive plan, but the housing studies that have been done by Noblesville. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and are open for questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Compton, comments, questions, concerns? Mr. Johnson.
Just mention that it's a great concept and it incorporates kind of the full life of the adults. I can't think of anything missing right now, but I'll keep an eyeball on it.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe more pickleball collection.
Yeah. We've had a discussion with Mr. Card as late as today about pickleball.
Additional comments? Mr. Taylor.
I got a question on Area A under your vinyl siding. What percentage of vinyl siding are you proposing for that? And I guess my next question is it only Section A or is it throughout the project?
Thank you for the question, sir. I'll provide clarification. The Section A is the only area. The age-restricted 55 and better area will be the only area that will allow to have vinyl siding. Low maintenance is extremely important for this buyer as their homeowners association fees, because it's all-inclusive of their yard, snow removal, putting down mulch, trimming, and that 12,500 square foot clubhouse are so important, are over $200 a month, even in the smallest units. So it will only be in this area. Generally, the vinyl siding is on the sides and rear of the home. There'll be some type of, I don't know if I can go back, but if you could, they're in your package, I believe. The front elevations are mostly brick and stone, have some combination, have very little vinyl siding in that. There is always an option in Del Webb if they would like to brick wrap their house, and we have several of those in Britton Falls who want absolutely no maintenance. But low maintenance is important. These associations have a strong homeowners association, and we have been working very closely with your staff to establish standards that are even higher than what we have, not only in installation, but in thickness from the Fisher's Del Webb.
So they could be 100% vinyl?
Not on the front, on the sides and back, yes.
Okay.
Johnson?
I'm pretty sure that what we're going to hear from some of the other members here is that, can we think of another low-maintenance product that might be similar to that in cost and stuff?
I think the challenge is the painting, sir. You know, the hardy plank is certainly a material that replaced the, I started in this business in '88, and we had the T111 siding. If we've all been around long enough, that was a wood composite, but it not only degraded, unfortunately, and was a recall, but they also had to be painted. Hardy plank, or cement siding, cement fiberboard siding, Hardy Plank is a brand, is a very good product. The challenge is that it requires painting every 4 to 5 years. And that is, maintenance cost is so important to this buyer. And it's not about lowering the price of the offering. We'll spend a significant, in the millions of dollars on the clubhouse and the amenities and the boulevards and the parks. To this buyer, that maintenance, sir, is just a huge, important issue. Yeah.
Comments?
Well, probably a couple, but there's an existing development right there on, I think Bowden, right? On that side of it. I'm trying to look at the map and I don't see the road.
Oh.
Yeah, just exactly, Corby's.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of buffer is being built between that proposed development that's still kind of there, not necessarily being built? I don't know. But to protect what potentially will be there.
We're actually in discussions with Corby Thompson right now about them becoming part of our amenities area, and certainly we'll discuss buffers adjacent. We have not gotten that far in discussions yet. You're talking about the existing copper leaf that's been approved yet. We have not finalized what we're going to do there, but we've had preliminary discussions with him and one of his builders that would be part of it. So the answer is we haven't finalized it yet, but we know that there may need to be some transition to the south. Obviously, there's single family to the west, to the east, and so there's usually not any transition there because you're like to like. The question is going to the south where you have the senior, what is an appropriate transition. So we'll work with Corby and staff on that. We're also working on some offsite utilities together. So the answer is I don't have an answer tonight, but we are discussing it.
Additional comments, questions? Mr. Compton, I do. Sorry, Mr. Ayer, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. I would one of the concerns that I have in this development is the multifamily component. One issue that I saw a lot as I have worked through my district is the concern for more apartments within our community. I think the council has voiced that on multiple occasions, but I also do appreciate the entire mixture of this development and how that does fit into the aesthetics out in that area. But can you elaborate a little bit more about what you envision in that area in terms of unit numbers and kind of dive in a little bit deeper on that component for me?
Yeah, we anticipate more of a non-traditional, and we work with staff to make sure that we've been in sync with what you've been looking for in your housing study. More of a non-traditional apartment, market rate, multifamily feel in that area. To answer your question directly on unit count, the proposal would be for 300 multifamily market rate. We're investigating with Chris's help with the work that he's done up in Portage and other areas of residential over retail, pulling it closer out to the corner. The key is the walkability. As I said in the community, we've got between Corby's development and this development, upon build out, you'd have about 1,500 homes. So we want to make sure that the trail system is one of those things that we do great connectivity into Corby's project and into this project. The centerpiece that I failed to talk about was there's a 43-acre regional detention, Chris, that goes right up through the project. That'll not only be open to this community, but it's open to the public. You'll be able to talk to Brandon in your Parks Department about maybe a Zagster area here where you could get on a bike and ride through all the common area that's around the big lake, that it's not just private common area, that it's open to the public. So we're looking for a unique setting for the apartments. It's not something that you would find at 146th and I'm thinking of the project over there, 146 and 37. More integrated into the retail, into the community. We've had some preliminary discussions with the city about a tunnel over to the park. This provides a hugely unique setting, especially as the city considers growing, and I know the emphasis that you've put on the Borg Warner area and improving the roads north of there on Oleo Road. As that area develops, multifamily in this area will provide a very convenient, low traffic way to get down to people who work either at the Embassy Suites, Borg Warner, Exit 210. That's even closer than some of the other projects that are proposed on your books that we may not even know if they ever become to fruition. So understand your concern. It's like undeveloped lots. where you wonder if the developer is ever going to go forward. This is a project that's going to go forward in a unique multifamily that's pulled up by the street, and we've been working with Chris on the final design of that.
Yeah, and I would just encourage that. I like the idea of the residential over retail. I would like to see some unique components out there. And I know I've said that privately to you, but I think this council has shown a little bit of a hesitancy to just have yet another massive mixed-use or multifamily development. So I would encourage that as you guys go along to take a look at some unique options for that. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Additional comments or questions, Mr. Ayer?
Yes, Mr. Compton?
Yes, sir.
Your project on Cynthian, is it on Cynthian Road in Fishers?
Yes.
Right? I went back and looked at it. It's a very nice project. Actually, I've sold a couple of homes back there. But
thank you.
As I drive down the road, I can't see the houses.
Right.
This doesn't look quite to be the same. You have a long winding driveway that goes back and this nice big clubhouse back there. The homes back right up to the roads, at least from what I can see on the maps. I'm talking about, yes,
yeah.
Well, basically everything does. You've got some drawings of some of your amenities to your entrances, but they don't seem to be anywhere near to the extent of what you have down on Cynthian Road. What's the square footage of the clubhouse you're looking at building up here on this one, or the amenity center, I should say?
12,500 square feet.
And what's the size down in Fishers?
23,500 square feet. There's about double the number of houses down on that one, Brian, than there are on this one.
Even when you throw the whole mix of everything of 1,500 homes or 1,500 residents, or is this amenity center only used
this amenity center? Yep.
It's only used by that area.
Only by Del Webb. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And let me just comment real briefly on the perimeter buffer. We'll provide more detail at Plan Commission on that, but our intention is to have the same intensity of perimeter buffer. And this one has a boulevard coming in. We haven't finalized the entrance monumentation of, we have a waterfall down there.
Yeah, you have a pretty nice entrance down
Yeah, this will be nice. I mean, we've been focused, I will not take any credit for this because there's actually been a Skunk Works team that's Caitlin's been on, and I think Rex has had input on. So no, the entranceway feature of every Del Webb community has got to be the showpiece. And so we'll provide more meat on the bone as we come forward. But no, I know exactly what you're talking about on Cynthian Road, where you don't see the back of the houses because between the mound size and the trees that are on them, now they've got 10 years of growth now, but they still were substantial when we put them in. And it's our intention to provide the same absolute of what we're doing down there. So.
Additional comments? Mr. Hampton?
About the commercial element, how will the parking be? You said something along the lines of you hope people bike and walk up to that.
Yeah.
But there are specific amount of parking that you're going to have. What's that going to look like?
Well, I don't think it's been finalized yet. I think that's the challenge in resi over retail. You want some parking out on the street because you want people to drive by and see that the front of the stores, and there's a lot of lessons learned around central Indiana. Village of West Clay, even Anson over in Zionsville. So we're going to draw upon Chris's expertise of what he's done in other areas and some retail people that we know that he may partner with on that also. But I would say that you're going to see parking, I would most likely say some parking out front, a limited amount, and then some around the sides. But you've got to be able to showcase who it is and then have some parking up front for them to make it easy to get in, but at the same time have it a place for people who ride a bike in or come within the neighborhood. So to simply answer, it's got to exist both ways. It's got to support the neighborhood, but it's also got to be a place without a sea of parking out front. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Johnson?
Kind of a roundabout question. Are we still dealing with the USPS? Okay. Some issue that you've not had in other communities that you probably are going to have here in Noblesville has to do with mailboxes. Do you have locations for multiples, and And do they look better than just plain old mailboxes?
Sure. I think I'm going to break that answer into two questions, Roy. We've actually studied that already with our experience over at Blue Ridge. I think the answer is twofold. The Del Webb has this huge clubhouse. It is the social beehive of the center. So there will be a mail room within that clubhouse. There is someone when you come in, there's limited access. You've got to have a swipe card, or we buzz you in as a guest, and you check in actually at a front desk. So that provides a great opportunity for, if you want package drop off, Amazon Prime, they'll drop, or if you want to drop or packages dropped at the clubhouse or signed for, we can do that. But you can also, there'll be a mail station. So 650 units will be taken care of right there. We've already studied locations and designs of where we're going to have mail stations throughout the community. They really kind of need to be strategically located so that they're in common areas, between the lots and thoughtfully placed. And so we'll work with the Postal Service within the single family areas to locate those, and not in high visibility where you just drive right in, you see mailboxes only, but also where they're convenient for people. So got 50%, 100% solved, and the other 50 I don't.
And I want to point out that that is not a requirement of the city of Noblesville.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for anyone watching or in the audience, we're fortunate enough with our postmaster to be required to have in any new neighborhood cluster mailboxes versus mailboxes in front of your individual home. So I'm not sure why we were so fortunate to have that requirement, but we do, and it's not a requirement of the city. So thank you for pointing that out. And if anyone knows their postmaster, please let them know our feelings on this topic. Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Compton.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate
the process. Okay. Council comments. Already said a lot tonight. And seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good evening. Thank you for being here.